The opponent going to send Belly Bolt back into the arena, looking to force energy, but nah, we're just going to bank 100 energy and snipe with Altaria. Out comes Kingdra, behind on energy and down on shields. Kingdra might be incredibly spammy to Swifts this season, but unfortunately for this opponent, no amount of Swift baiting is ever going to save their fate. Altaria fires off the first sky attack, forcing the opponent's final Protect shield. Altaria still with a shield to hide behind, going to race to the next sky attack, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Welcome back to the channel, a place that I like to call the home of Shadow Pokemon. If you're new around here, my name is Jamie Finn1415, and I've got a YouTube channel dedicated to showcasing as many unique Shadow Pokemon in the Go Battle League. The most recent Team Rocket takeover gave us access to Shadow Altaria for the first time. We all know this Pokemon is an absolute menace in the Open Great League, but if I don't power one up to level 50 and test it out in the Ultra League, or where else are you going to see it? Despite me ploughing a bucket load of resource into this Pokemon, over 650,000 Stardust to be precise, this Pokemon maxes out nowhere near the league limit. This Pokemon I'm running isn't even a hundo, it's a 15, 15, 13, and it maxes out well below 2300 CP. T-building today is nice and simple. We're going with that classic Steel Double Dragon strategy, using Kingdra as the save switch. Kingdra, much like Altaria, got massively buffed this season thanks to the Dragon Breath rework. These battles are actually played earlier in the season, about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I've got no idea how they go, but to find out if Altaria is any good, I guess there's only one way to find out. So without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1, we are off to a good start as Forretress stares down for Alligator. Today I'm opting for Volt Switch over Bug Bite. Volt Switch also got buffed this season. As the opponent's opting to stay in, I'm going to be an absolute degenerate. I'm going to shield the first move and look to debuff him. The opponent actually tried for the Rock Tomb catch onto Swampert. A very nice catch attempt, but the opponent's immediately hard punished by Altaria. When you see Swampert in the Ultra League, it's kind of a coin flip. Some opt for Earthquake. A nice stab Hail Mary for annoying Pokemon like Belly Bolt. This opponent opting for Sludge, which does give you coverage into common grass types like Virizion. Despite this being Shadow on Shadow crime, Altaria able to shrug off back-to-back Sludges, land a Sky Attack, Dragon Breath farm down afterwards. This kind of works out as a best case scenario as Altaria leaves minimal farm for the returning for Alligator and residual energy good to go. Altaria lands the Sky Attack, getting for Alligator deep into the red health range. We send out Milotic. Yes, the graphic on the left says Kingdra. So what actually happened, I tried to showcase Milotic, got absolutely clapped, going 1 and 9. I closed the app, had a little hissy fit if I'm being brutally honest, and then re-entered the arena, switched in Kingdra, but the game's like, nah bro, have some more punishment. That really annoying glitch where you change teams, you queue up to battle and you get the old party. As some of you know, I'm an absolute glutton for punishments. If you'd like to see Milotic featured in the Ultra League, let me know and we'll try it again. However, this game is looking signed, sealed and delivered. The opponent reset their debuff, fire off the Hydro Cannon. Milotic says, what is that pitiful damage? Leaves with the Surf, and we somehow managed to get our second victory with Milotic. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see Florges in the lead position. Honestly, no matter what the format is, I'm starting to get pretty tired of seeing this Florges. Master League Premier, it was everywhere. Great League is common. And guess what? In Ultra League, you still can't get away from this bloody annoying threat. Interesting, it looks like this one isn't running the Legacy Chilling Water, which is the most annoying move in the world. They're actually opting for Trailblaze and then likely Moonblast. Let's see if we get a boosted Moonblast to their face. Yes, we do, but Forretress resists that too and easily shrugs off the damage. I overfarm, fire off the next Rock Tomb, and look to remove Florges from the field of play. Down goes Florges, and I'm spamming the switch. As we're on an ABB team, safe switching into Kingdra, looking to bait out the opponent's best Dragon-type counter. Kingdra happens to be quite a unique dragon. Its sub-water typing means we're not weak to ice, we're actually only neutral, as water does resist while Dragon takes super effective. The opponent land the Ice Beam, dump their energy, and then send out Belly Bolt. We YOLO the Outrage, which apparently is a huge misplay. I'm not a fan of baiting, but we all know that Belly Bolt users love to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on Thundershock, spam that Parabolic Charge, and look to boost up their defense. Switch timers are misaligned, so I look to make good use of it. I land the Rock Tomb, pivot into Altaria, and look to start loading up on energy. Now they're at -1, I'm anticipating tanking quite a few Parabolic Charges. It looks like we easily survive 2, but the third one might actually threaten a knockout. Altaria gonna fire off the Flamethrower able to land, potentially put in a range where I can tank yet another move and Dragon Breath farm down afterwards. If this was Season 23, or perhaps he had a bigger stat product, the Dragon Breath farm down would be possible, but unfortunately the opponent survives on fractional HP. I invest the first Protect Shield, the opponent then not wishing to concede a farm down, pivot back out into Lapras. Lapras greeted with the Sky Attack, switch timers are misaligned, and once again I look to make good use of it, pivoting into Forretress. Despite us not getting the same type of attack bonus on these Volt switches, they are doing crazy damage. Lapras's HP getting absolutely deleted. Despite them being one of the bulkiest mon in the format, the opponent forced to invest the Protect Shield, and they're forced to dump energy too. It looks like the damage for my opponent is already done. Altaria should be able to Dragon Breath farm down everything. The opponent tried to make a catch. We don't even have the energy for the charge move, but regardless, Altaria gonna Dragon Breath farm down the remainder of the team, and we take that game. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Kingdra, go quickly. Do something on the save switch. Out comes a Bomber Snow. As I said previously, we're only neutral to ice, and I'm not a fan of bait, and I YOLO the outrage. The opponent fucked about. They found out, and just like that, switch advantage is mine. The opponent go for the Weather Ball bait. Energy Ball, of course, would do more, but the opponent probably thinking they're reaching back-to-back Weather Balls. However, trainer, you certainly are not. Out comes Gator once again. We're going to YOLO the outrage, look to do massive damage, or force the first protection of the game. The opponent invests the Protect Shield. Kingdra looks to reach to the Parting Swift, but unfortunately no DRE for me. Forretress just going to operate as a damage sponge. The opponent likely send out Talonflame. I think I should be brave here and instantly pivot out into Altaria. We actually take the Incinerate damage onto Forretress, but we're able to survive. No one move knocks out. If the opponent Brave Bird, they're just going to get knocked out for a Sky Attack. With that in mind, they opt for the fly, not wanting to debuff their defense. But with 2 shields to hide behind, Altaria looking primed to sweep. We fire off the first Sky Attack, forcing the opponent's first Protect Shield. Altaria going to start matching Protect Shields, and this game is over. Or at least so it should be. But what the heck is going on here? We get a bucket load of lag. Obviously, this game ends in defeat, but we all know this would have been a victory. I'd have Sky Attack that stupid Firebird of Death to the face, but it is what it is. We know the servers are shit. Moving on to the next one. We lead Forretress into Dust Noir. This is a neutral matchup, but as we're on an ABB team, in all neutral matchups, I'm going to look to pivot out at some stage. We're going to tank a charge move, return fire with the Rock Tomb, debuff them, and then send out Kingdra. Kingdra's quite awkward into Dust Noir. Of course, you have to land the Outrage, which is quite expensive. You get there reasonably quick, but Swift would be double resisted. In this line of 3, Kingdra is always a designated save switch, even though it's quite awkward into Dust Noir, as you do have to land the expensive Outrage. I don't ever really fancy save switching in Altaria with that double weakness to ice, when ice types are pretty common in the Ultra League. We land the Outrage removes Dust Noir from the field of play. Out comes Gastron. I recognise I'm not reaching the Outrage, so I set off with the Swift, getting off some decent chip damage, and we have an absolute wall to this energy in the form of our Altaria. Altaria enters the arena. I was anticipating the opponent switching up, but they stay on my screen, which probably means whatever's in the back not going to be particularly good into Altaria. The opponent go for the Water Pulse. Despite Water Pulse getting same type attack bonus, Body Slam probably does about the same and is slightly cheaper. Now it's been buffed. The opponent tanked the Sky Attack, pivot into Typhlosion, and Altaria looks primed to close the show. Despite Altaria maxing out at less than 2300 CP, when you put it in something like this ABB team, using Kingdra to bait out all the stuff Altaria doesn't want to see, it actually functions as a pretty good closer, as you're going to see an example of here. We outpace to the next Sky Attack, removing Typhlosion from the field of play. Gastron on fractional HP, gets Dragon Breath farm down, and we take that game. In the next battle, we see Dragonite in the lead position. This is definitely a matchup where you can see the buff the Volt Switch this season. These Volt Switches are really chunky, and the opponent likely super on dip, so I'm going to respect it with a Protect Shield. The opponent then sends out for Alligator. A very interesting counter swap. The Volt Switches, instead of hitting Dragonite for neutral, hit for super effective. We land the Rock Tomb, debuffing their attack, and now even if they've got Ice Beam, they can enjoy themselves. It only hits for neutral and is non-stab. We find ourselves in the 1-to-1 shield. Here I think the opponent makes a huge mistake, settling for the Hydro Cannon that is double resistant at -1. It's simply not going to cut it. We farm up to the double Swift, and the opponent really can't afford to shield. If they shield the first, the second will knock them out. With that in mind, down goes Gator, back out comes Dragonite. Dragonite greeted with the Swift. I'm going to be aggressive, send out Altaria. We're able to snipe down and get a very nice running start. That energy lead is going to be key for me, as we're going to be able to outpace Typhlosion, 2 back-to-back Sky Attacks, and Altaria, once again, believe it or not, is going to close the show. We shield at the Thunder Punch, over farm, fire off the first Sky Attack forces the opponent's first Protect Shield. Altaria able to outpace to Sky Attack number 2, and once again, Altaria is on cleanup duty. GG's that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Cresselia in the lead position. This is definitely where the team wants to see it, as of course Cresselia will have Moonblast for coverage. That is going to land for massive damage into both of my dragons. I farm up, throw the Rock Tomb, what looks like to be a charge attack priority. So the opponent looking to dump energy that is going to be resisted, and also now at -1. What you've got to recognise, if you find yourself in a situation like this, if the opponent's staying a really bad match from the lead, they've likely got something in the back that doesn't want to see Forretress 2. The opponent sends out Combo, and that happens to be something I particularly don't want to see. We throw the Rock Tomb, looking to lower their damage output. I go straight for the Swift, hoping to play to a CMP tie, Hope the opponent only reaches one move. They actually take the Dragon Tail, so that might be a costly mistake. As the opponent was able to sneak a Dragon Tail, I'm going to be forced to double shield if I want to keep that alignment. And you better believe I'm going to be one of them really cheesy players. Double shield in the mid-game matchup, keep the alignment, and I don't really fancy Altaria into Cresselia. Back out comes Cresselia, Kingdra, still not done. Gonna fire off the Outrage, able to land. We then aggressively pivot out into Forretress, and out comes the Kentucky Fried Chicken, Bird of Death. Forretress gonna reach the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb will be forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield and debuffing their attack too. This Talonflame of Energy would be quite scary, but now they're at -1. Brave Bird should be pretty easily survivable. The opponent actually fire off a Fly, and you can see that double Fly simply isn't going to cut it. However, with that being said, if this is a Brave Bird, this endgame is about to get very, very dicey. The opponent fire off the Fly, send out Cresselia. I'm not taking any chance. I'm just going to look to knock it out. Sky Attack does exactly that. We pivot into Kingdra, look to force the energy. The opponent is going to dump the Fly. Altaria with residual energy should be able to outpace Talonflame as long as we don't die to the Incinerate, which we do not. And we once again just about escape with a dub despite a pretty dicey endgame. GG to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, Forretress into Virizion. Not a particularly good matchup for me. Everything I can throw is resisted. We're going to say switch into Kingdra. Kingdra unfortunately does take neutral to grass. Leaf Blade, one of the best moves in the game. However, interesting enough, the opponent actually go for the Sacred Sword. Potentially running Sacred Sword and Stone Edge. Out comes Giratina. Right off the bat, we YOLO the Outrage. Get that Giratina off my screen. That is a huge one-hit KO. Back out comes Virizion. Kingdra gonna fire off the Swift. Swift forced the protection. The opponent is gonna have to dump energy. The opponent continues to double kick away. Kingdra takes the initiative, fires off yet another Swift, and the damage really is done. The opponent like, nope, I don't want the smoke, and they concede the match. Heading into the next battle, we see Lapras in the lead position. What I noticed with Forretress is essentially one of them Pokemon, quite high risk, high reward. You either see a commanding lead or a god-awful one. The opponent say switch into Zygarde. Don't commit to the Outrage, fire off the Crunch, and unfortunately get the debuff. Nowadays, there's only a 10% chance, so pretty unfortunate on my part. Unfortunately, we don't see back-to-back Outrage booms in the mid-game matchup. As the opponent crap their pants, putting up that Protect Shield, we settle for the Swift. The opponent clearly unfamiliar with counts, invest their final Protect Shield when they really didn't need to, setting me up with a 2-0 shield advantage. I send out Altaria, look to start loading up on energy. The opponent then pivot back out into Lapras, and here comes Forretress. If I wasn't just trying to make Altaria the star of the show, I probably would have shielded up the first Sparkling Aria and looked to debuff him. Then when I tank the next one, it won't do anywhere near as much damage. However, do you know what? I spent 650,000 Stardust on Altaria. We're going to tank both Sparkling Arias and give all the shields to Altaria. Hoping a 2-0 shield advantage is going to be primed to sweep. Back out comes Zygarde. We fire off the Earthquake. We're going to look to snipe him down with Altaria. We've got 2 shields and an energy lead. What could go wrong? Out comes Bellibolt. I'm sure a lot of trainers will agree this Pokemon is the bane of my existence in the Ultra League. It is so annoying, but with no shield to hide behind, it isn't going to do what the opponent wants it to. We're able to land the Flamethrower before the opponent buff up their defense. We've got 2 shields, and at this point, I'm essentially shielding everything. We shield up the Parabolic Charge, reach yet another Flamethrower. Flamethrower won't be lethal, but the opponent's just going to die to quick moves. The opponent playing the inevitable out. If they want that smoke, trainer, you better believe Altaria is going to give it to you. The opponent fire off yet another Parabolic Charge. We Dragon Breath Farm down and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see the Steel Penguin in the lead position. If I'm being honest, I wanted to use Empoleon with this team. Still Double Dragon with the Penguin lead, but I think all of us are bored of seeing Empoleon plus Double Dragon, so I thought I'd mix it up and use Forretress instead. If the opponent's staying in such a god-awful matchup, I recognise they've likely got something else that doesn't want to see Forretress in the back. Out comes Dragonite. We fire off the Swift. The Swift isn't lethal, but does get the opponent deep into the red health range. The opponent actually settled with a Thunder Punch. They would have superpower. They would have been able to take back Switch. That might be a decision they live to regret. Kingdra able to take back Switch. The opponent sends out Palkia. Attempt to Dragon Breath farm me down. We commit to the Outrage. We're rewarded getting that Outrage off and forcing our Protect Shield back. I send back out Forretress. Fire off the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb won't be lethal. Palkia hella glassy. The opponent chooses to invest a Protect Shield. The opponent is going to be able to outpace. Palkia hits hard, but this energy is at -1. The opponent then tries to give me that wham, bam, combo play. But I'm going to invest the Protect Shield, bank this energy, snipe down with Altaria, and this game should be over. Both me and my opponent running very similar team comps, and I think this is a case in point of why I didn't lead Empoleon today. I say today, like a month ago. Whenever I played the battles, this team comp's hella common, so we thought we'd mix it up. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we lead Forretress into Florges. Let's see if this one's on chilling water. I think most are on chilling water. I think the one we saw earlier was a bit of an anomaly. Running Trailblazer, it does give you coverage into common water types right on cue. There is said chilling water, which means this matchup is going to get very, very annoying. Everything Forretress learns, or at least everything that I'm using today, is non-stab and doesn't actually do too much damage. You can of course run like Mirror Shot. That does get the same type attack bonus, but is an absolutely trash move. Of course you could opt for Bug Bite, not that would help you in this matchup. But you do get the same type attack bonus. I think Volt Switch in the Ultra League is definitely the way to go. Bug's pretty awful offensively. It's resisted by the most typings in Pokemon Go. The more you know. The opponent continues throwing an alignment. Of course, using that 2-turn Fairy Wind into a 4-turn move like Volt Switch, they should be 1 and throwing. We actually are able to snipe down with Kingdra, get the energy, but this energy isn't going to go too many places into this Corviknight. Despite Kingdra being fully walled in this moveset, these stab outrages do really add up. You can see does around 35%. The opponent continues to throw air cutter after air cutter, fishing for the boost, but no boost does come through. There's literally no point in throwing a Swift. It'll do absolutely nothing as we fire off yet another outrage. The opponent looking for the sand attack farm down or potentially over farm. I'm not entirely sure what they're doing. End up shielding a Swift, which is like a best case scenario. Once again, I've managed to position Altaria with a shield advantage, but out comes Cresselia, which is a hella bulky Pokemon and also something that can one-shot us with a Moonblast. I'm not actually sure if Moonblast one-shot. We've got 2300 CP, I don't really intend to find out. We land the Sky Attack, go for the Wham Bam combo play, send out Forretress. The opponent is never ever confusion farming us down, and they are going to be forced to dump energy. Again, we're just going to save the shields for Altaria, and Altaria should be in a good position to sweep. The opponent go for the Grass Knot, we get off one further Volt Switch, and they are definitely in Sky Attack range. This is like the Grass Knot bait, but sometimes better to be safe than sorry. Right on cue, there is the Grass Knot bait. The opponent then give me the Wham Bam combo play. Payback will hurt, but of course, the objective less than a Moonblast. We tank the payback, Dragon Breath farm down. I remember this endgame. I massively throw. All I've got to do is throw the back-to-back Sky Attacks, but I thought surely we can Dragon Breath farm down and save 10 seconds of my life. Apparently we cannot. And in a weird turn of events, I throw the battle and get confusion farm down. So moral of the story is sometimes 10 seconds of your life is definitely better than taking a loss. Not that I really care about Elo. Heading into the next battle. We see another battle of steel types. Sonic the Hedgehog is certainly something my backline it doesn't want to see. The opponent actually go for the Ice Punch bait. Probably thinking we're going to shield the first move and throw the Rock Tomb. I hardly ever bait, and this is why. The opponent no-shield the Rock Tomb like a savage. The first and only bait I've thrown today, and of course it gets called. We then correctly shield the Drill Run. Unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to be unable to Volt Switch farm down. I don't want to throw energy at such a low health Pokemon. So we bank the energy, pivot into Kingdra. We tank the -1 Ice Punch, and out comes Regidrago. This is an intentional Swift. It's not really a bait, to be honest. The thought process is that we're going to either force the energy or get off some meaningful damage. The opponent looking for that full Dragon Breath farm down, and Swift is going to land, getting them below the half health range. Kingdra once again putting in work, and arguably the star of today's show. Back out comes Forretress. We go straight for the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb able to land, forcing the opponent's final protection. The opponent sends out Sand Slash, gets Volt Switch farm down, and out comes Dragalge. Dragalge going to be greeted with the Earthquake. Earthquake able to land, and we pivot into Altaria. This isn't enough for an outrage, so I'm thinking, surely we tank this move and just Dragon Breath farm down everything. However, that might not actually be the case, as this opponent hasn't thrown any energy here, and they're actually at back-to-back Dragon Energies. I shield the first, the second one is already queued up, and it's now going to be down to can I Volt Switch farm down this Dragon before they reach yet another Dragon Energy. We attempt the Volt Switch farm down, Regidrago able to outpace, reaching yet another charge move. Very, very well played to my opponent, and this one does end in heartbreaking defeat. Heading into the next battle. You couldn't ask for a better lead. Shadow Venusaur, a terrifying Pokemon with crazy damage output, but they are completely walled. Frenzy Plant, double resisted. Sludge, also double resisted. The questions need to be asked. Trainer, even with your ABA weak, surely whatever's in the back is going to be better into this Forretress. The opponent tanked the Rock Tomb, pivot into Belly Bolt. We're going to debuff their attack and then send out Kingdra. We know Belly Bolt users love the shield. I'm not even going to farm up to the outrage. I'm just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Dragon Breaths and spam as many Swifts as humanly possible. The opponent being an absolute degenerate, shield up the Swift, despite Swift not getting same type attack bonus. Once again, we're going to fire off the next Swift before the opponent reaches the next parabolic charge. Swift able to land, not quite enough to knock out, but the damage is already done with Kingdra more or less neutralising this mid-game matchup. Parabolic Charge isn't quite enough to knock out the opponent, then snipe with Venusaur, once again switch locking it into Forretress, which is a very, very questionable decision. I don't have to throw anything here, we can just fully resisted, Volt Switch farm down and leave with all the energy in the world. Sometimes the Go Battle League isn't all that complicated. In blind battles, you just need to keep alignment, which we've done here. The opponent sends out Belly Bolt, look to try and force me to dump some of that energy, but able to snipe down with Altaria, and out comes Kingdra. Kingdra behind on energy and down on shields. I mean, all know how this one's going to end. My opponent, much like me, going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Dragon Breath, spam as many Swifts as humanly possible. But at shield disadvantage, this game is over. Altaria going to outpace to the next Sky attack, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, I believe this might be the last battle, or perhaps we've got 2 more. We see Florges in the lead position. I did previously mention I think this Pokemon is bloody annoying because it just continues to debuff you time and time again, spamming them chilling waters at a very alarming rate. However, if I'm being brutally honest, I think it's fantastic that we had Florges Community Day. It enabled trainers to get a Pokemon that's viable in all 3 leagues and every format. Master League Premier is good, Open Master League is good, Great League Remix, Open Great League, Open Ultra League, every single format is physically eligible and it's got play-ins. Having a Pokemon that's been obtainable recently with play in every single format does give newer trainers the opportunity to compete. The game seems to be kind of buzzing at the moment, especially the level cap increase to level 80. So if you just return to the game and you miss Florges Community Day, don't worry, in December, every single year we get a catch-up Community Day. So you'll be able to evolve Florges to get chilling water in like a month or 2, which is another fantastic thing that Niantic give us every single season. Whilst the game seems to be buzzing, I'll be honest, it's mostly around PvE. PvP is still pretty niche. And I think what Niantic and Scopely need to do is continue to give us Pokemon on community days that have play in all 3 leagues. What was this month? That's Colossus. Charm. Honestly, what does that do? I hate Charmers, and even I haven't showcased that bloody thing. I think Jonkus was like the only one. Maybe Henry did too, but honestly, less of that nonsense and more stuff like Florges with actual viable PvP mon. It's been a hot minute since I've gone off on a mad tangent, but I am passionate about the game. My motivation to play and even produce content is starting to dwindle. I'd love to see just Niantic continue to give us viable mon, giving us some buzz around this game we all love, maybe love and hate, but you kind of get what I'm saying. I've always been someone who says it how it is, but I think the company is certainly heading in the right direction. The rework to Dragon Breath was fantastic. Previously, Dragon Breath was essentially a fast move beatdown strategy. Having dragons nowadays that are spammy, stuff like bloody Salamence, spamming brutal swings in 9 turns, I have got all the time in the world for. So that is just about going to wrap things up for today's shoutcast. Should you power up Alteria? I'll be honest, it performed far better than I was expecting, but let's be honest, it is going to be niche spice. There's plenty of better dragons. A good example of that is Kingdra. Kingdra is objectively better and objectively cheaper to build too. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on my channel, a link to our battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.